Hi everyone, and welcome to the webinar on making an application to the Industrial Energy Efficiency Accelerator. My name is Jonathan Clues, and I'm the Competition Manager for the IEEA. In this webinar, myself and Andrew will be taking you through a brief background to the IEEA, information on the competition, some practical guidance on making an application, and some tips for making your application based on lessons learned from previous rounds of applications. So the IEEA is managed by Carbon Trust along with Jacobs and KTN on behalf of the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, which is BEIS. And I'm joined today, as I mentioned before, by my colleague Andrew. So I'll hand over to Andrew just to say a quick hello.
Hello everybody, so I'm Andrew Moore from Jacobs and I'm the technical lead on the programme, and I've had the pleasure of working on the last IEEA programme.
Thanks, Andrew. And Andrew will be coming back in a bit later to take you through some of the practical advice and tips that he's garnered over the last few years from working with a lot of these programs and seeing a lot of applications to the IEEA. So we are now into the third phase of the IEEA, which is a competition to select the best industrial energy efficiency projects with cross-sector potential. The programme seeks to support novel technology or new applications of technologies and sectors which might have a significant barrier to their uptake. Phase 1 and 2 were focused on energy saving. Phase 3, which is the new phase, and then consequently phase 4 as well, will also include resource efficiency as long as they still lead to decarbonisation. For all potential projects, the demonstration site must be in the UK. And in terms of the type of funding that can be received, projects will typically receive between £150,000 and £1 million in grants, which will generally cover around 40 to 60% of the total cost of the projects. Just before we get into some of the practical parts of applying to the IEEA, I wanted to just give you a bit of a brief background on some of the eligibility criteria for the programme. We've covered this a lot in previous webinars, and all of this information in much more detail is also available on the IEEA website, which is www.carbontrust.com/IEEA. And I'll be taking you to that website a little bit later as well to show you some of the information available on it. But in terms of a high-level summary of the eligibility, technologies are expected to be between TRL 5 and TRL 8 at the start of their project, with the potential to progress to TRL 8 or 9 by the end. As I mentioned before, they should be novel technologies in the UK or demonstration sector and have good scale-up and commercial replication potential. Projects must have a single lead applicant, but applications are generally made up of multiple partners. I'll come on to a little bit later about what that means in terms of funding and how we classify different partner types as well. Related to eligibility, the IEEA has several key themes for the types of projects it's expecting to support. The first of these is around energy saving projects. These can be demonstrated in any eligible sector and are really sort of measured on the fact that there is energy saved specifically on site and within the process. The second is around water and waste savings and reductions. And these generally would be expected to show cross-sector applicability in their demonstration. The next is around reduced raw material use as part of material intensity and low carbon alternative materials and material recycling or reuse. And then finally, this also includes digital projects. We have a lot of questions on this. We have in previous phases had many projects with us which are digital in nature, including one which is a digital twin in the paper sector. One thing to note for digital projects is they cannot be purely data analysis projects. There is an expectation that the results of the digital assessment actually results in implementation of changes within the process. As you can see across these themes, the energy resource efficiency needs to be achieved in the production stage, i.e. not in the distribution, use or disposal of the products. And as I mentioned before, full eligibility criteria can be found on the IEEA website, so please do visit that for more detail. So now I just wanted to come into a bit of an overview of the competition and the details behind that. So applications for phase 3 are open and are currently scheduled to close at 3 p.m. on the 31st of January 2022. Projects are expected to commence from around April or May of this year and be concluded within 2 years. Applications for phase 4 are expected to open in May 2022, with projects commencing in September of 2022. However, one thing to note is that the total value of grants available for phase 4 will depend on the value distributed in phase 3. So we would encourage you to get your application in for phase 3 if you can, because we can't guarantee what funds will be available for the latter phases. On this slide, you can see what the application process looks like for the IEA at a high level, and I'll just take you through this quickly. The first step for any potential applicant is to visit the IEA website, where you'll be able to submit your project idea. It's a very quick and easy form, and this will allow the technical team to review your idea for eligibility and suitability for the IEA before you move on to making a full application. This will hopefully save you significant amounts of time and also allow you to receive responses to any particular queries you might have about eligibility and the types of projects that we are looking for. The next step is to start your draft application, and this can be done via the IEA website. During this step, you'll also be able to access a full range of application support offered by the program. This includes advice and guidance around matchmaking, around how to fill in the application form, and also we'll be able to answer any queries you might have throughout that process. Once you're happy with your application, it's time to submit it along with other supporting documentation, including the finance workbook and supporting materials such as Gantt charts, risk registers, etc. And I'll take you through those shortly. After that, you'll be invited to take part in a clarification meeting where we will give you the opportunity to respond to any particular questions we might have on your application, and that will allow us to get a better understanding of your application, of your technology as part of the assessment process. Finally, we will take all of the applications through to the assessment panel, where the applications will be scored against the standard scoring criteria to select the funding recipients. Applications will then be informed of the decisions and will all be provided with feedback on the decision and on their projects. So now I just wanted to take you through some particular application guidance for the IEA. First of all, as I mentioned before, there's a range of documents available on the IEA website which are there to support you in making your application. The first and probably most important of this is the guidance note. The guidance note contains all of the detail that you need to be able to make your application, to understand if your project is eligible and across the entirety of the process of the IEA as well. Included within that is information on financing and funding rules, which we know are a particular key question that many of our potential applicants have, and so we try to cover these in as greater detail within this document as we possibly can, and I'll focus on a couple of those points in a moment as well. The next really important document is the application form. Applications are to be submitted online via the Bayes Smart Survey form, which can be accessed via the website. However, we've also included a Word version of the form on the website. This exactly mirrors the online submission form and should help to support you with collaboration amongst your partners when submitting this, and also allow you to get a good sense of the complete form and the types of questions that will be asked throughout. The next important document available is the finance form. This needs to be uploaded as part of your application on the Smart Survey form, and there's a clearly marked area to do that. There is detailed information and support on how to complete the finance form, which can be found in Appendix 1 of the guidance note. So we would encourage you to go and look at that. And if anything is unclear, please do ask us. Please do feel free to reach out and ask a question. Additionally, there is a frequently asked questions document on the website, which is a culmination of some of the learnings that we've had from the previous phases and this phase of the IEA. So if in doubt, please check that. And if your question isn't answered within that, feel free to reach out to the team. And then finally, the how to submit an application properly. So as I mentioned before, this is done via the BEIS Smart Survey tool. And I will take you now to the website so that you can see that in action. So this is the IEEA website available here. The most important tab for making your applications is this Participate in Phase 3 of the IEEA tab at the top. Going to that, there's a whole range of information on here, which I'll just take you through. You've got buttons up here to submit your idea and to apply now. As I mentioned before, the first step to an application, we would encourage you to submit your idea before moving straight on to the application process. So please do consider doing that as part of the process. A bit further down the page, we've got some background information on eligibility, which again, we encourage you to read. This is a brief sort of summary of the more detailed information included in the guidance note. So a good place to start if you're unsure whether your project is eligible before moving into the detail of the guidance note. A little bit further down the page, here you can see the submit your idea form, which you can see is a very short form where we just ask for some basic levels of information. And then down here, you can see where it's available to start your application. Here in the supporting materials, you can see copies of all of the documents that I just referred to, and these are all available for download. And here you can see the Start Your Application button. So clicking on that takes you straight through to the BEIS Smart Survey form. There's some basic information on the first page here, as well as links again to all of the various supporting documentation that you might need. Clicking on next page, you can see here a summary of the different sections of the form. And then again, you'll be able to see here the start of the form proper, which starts with a quick summary of your application. You'll see on the form, anything with a red star next to it is a mandatory question which requires an answer, and you will not be able to move on to the next page unless you have completed that section, or alternatively at least entered something within that box. So you may want to just insert some dummy data to allow you to move on to next sections of the form, but please do remember to go back and complete those areas where you've not completed the form. So really we would suggest using the Word document to see what the full form looks like, and then visit this form when you're ready to complete it. One useful aspect of the Smart Survey form is you do not need to complete the Smart Survey form all in one go. At any point on any page, you can click Save and Continue later. This allows you to type in your name and your email address. Once you have done that and click Save, you will then be emailed a link with a specific URL, which will take you back to the Smart Survey form at the point which you left it, with all of your information you've entered so far saved. So please do make use of this function. It will hopefully save you a lot of time and heartache losing sections of the form. So now, just going back to the presentation, wanted to just focus in on a couple of quick areas from the guidance, which we know come up a lot in terms of questions that potential applicants have. And the first is around how much funding can you get for your project. So all projects, as I've mentioned previously, will not receive full funding for their project, and applicants will be expected to have match funding available and present for the start of their project. But here you can see on this slide here, the particular subsidy rules that exist for different types of projects and different types of organizations. And here you can see they vary depending on the size of the organization and the type of project that you are undertaking. Again, full information of this can be found on the IEEA website. For a collaboration, one important point to note is no one organization may account for over 70% of the eligible project costs, and this will be checked during the due diligence process and the application phase as we are assessing them. University partners undertaking non-economic activity may claim up to 80% of their costs, and other research organizations may claim up to 100% of eligible costs. And if we take you through to this next slide here, you'll be able to see the definitions of micro, small and medium enterprises, which classify as SMEs, and of large enterprises. It's important to note that these businesses must comply with the staff thresholds and the thresholds for either the balance sheet or the total turnover. A full list of definitions, including research organisations, charities, public sector, etc., can be found in section 4.7 of the guidance note. So if you're unsure how to classify your organisation, please visit that and it will be able to clarify that for you. Next, around eligible costs. This is an important part to consider when completing your finance form. Eligible costs in general are anything directly related to the project. So this might include personnel costs, instruments, equipment, services, additional overheads, etc., but will not include costs such as profit, bonuses, dividend payments, general costs for your organisation, etc. One important area to note is around depreciation. Depreciation of instruments and equipment is only costs relating to the life of the project, and these can be calculated on generally accepted accounting principles. Buildings, only depreciation costs corresponding to the life of the project again, and again calculated according to general accounting principles. So please do consider that when completing your finance form and those costs which are recoverable. Finally, your application checklist. This is a useful kind of 8-box exercise for when you are submitting your application. Please go back, revisit this, make sure that you have completed and uploaded all of these elements of the application to the application form when completing your application. Finally, do not leave your application to the last minute, please. Late submissions will not be accepted. It is a hard cutoff at the deadline and the form will simply not accept your application. On that, I will now hand over to Andrew to take you through a few sort of specific application tips through his experiences with working with projects over the last few years.
Thanks, Johnny. Okay, so the purpose of the next few slides is to share some tips and learnings from the previous phases in terms of preparing a strong application. So one of the aspects that we've previously found is that as technology developers are likely to have been very immersed in the technology, often there isn't the clarity for someone reviewing an application coming into it fresh. So what we're expressing here is please kind of step back and remember that applications are being read by people who haven't been immersed to date into your technology. Part of the understanding is the background to technology and understanding how it's going to progress from the current TRL level it is to TRL 8-9 in the demonstration project. And understanding that journey is really important, and particularly where we've got projects that are starting at TRLs 5/6, and the clarity that's needed of the acceleration that needs to happen such that we have a strong demonstration project. Often we've seen bias towards the technology and applications and less of a focus on actually what the demonstration project is going to be and how it will be integrated into the process. Often it's the technology developers found the industrial partner as part of the program, but it's clearly that it's been less developed in its thinking, so it's really a focus area. But the projects are innovative and novel, and they do require, through the programs, help accelerate them, and being clear on what the barriers and challenges are to overcome. And this is all part of explaining what the demonstration is going to set out to achieve, the steps that occur, the development process, and the demonstration actually removes those barriers and solves the challenges. So please do take advantage of the support the IEEA team can provide during the application stage. The team's here to help. So turning to the project team and the project manager, clearly we're bringing together 2, sometimes 3 partners, and the technology developer, an industrial partner, possibly an academic partner or others. Previously we've had projects with 5 partners, for example. But as I said, coming together in such a relatively short period of time to apply, it's important that as part of preparing the application and indeed the response, to be clear on how the team's going to work together, the roles and who's responsible for each element. From an assessment perspective, it's about having the confidence that a project can be successfully managed and delivered, and it's often less clear about the structure and the ways of working outside of the technology developer teams. This is all about making sure that it's clear how the other parties all come together to deliver this project. And I can't emphasise enough, the industrial partners are a crucial element in the programme. They're not simply the end of the project host. So working with the industrial partner and understanding how the technology is integrated, the part the industrial partner plays should really be thought through, and they're certainly a key member of the project team. And for risk management, there's always standard generic risks, of course, but stronger applications are those that have shown that they've got a strong risk management process, but also that they've shown they've given good consideration to the risks involved. Ultimately, they are development projects, and seeing from the outset that risk management is well thought out gives confidence that risks and issues will continue to be managed well during a project delivery. So now I want to just talk about monitoring and benefits. Ultimately, you've set out in an application a set of objectives for success and demonstration, and in the main, it's associated to the efficiency benefits the projects will deliver. You need to be clear on what the project has to measure and the data that will be required to demonstrate its success. It's important to give consideration to the baseline against which that success will be measured, and the industrial partner will certainly need to be involved. Now, is there sufficient metering measurement available already to measure the baseline to which it will be compared? And if not, include it in the project costs. It's also important to step back and consider what the potential adopters want to see, simple and clear performance data. So again, back to careful consideration of what needs to be measured within that demonstration project. Keep benefits calculations clear, assumptions well laid out, and avoid attaching complex spreadsheets. Clear summaries of the basis for calculations is best. Makes it easier for a technical reviewer to follow and allows them to focus on the confidence the information gives. And the final point, which we've already touched on, is the best applications have been those where it's clear that the industrial partner has been involved in the discussions during the preparation and submission of an application. So some final reminders. As Johnny said earlier, make sure you've uploaded all the key documents where appropriate, but they do aid the process. So as we've said earlier, making sure well annotated diagrams, spreadsheets are clearly annotated, and reviewers are not expected to unpick complex spreadsheet calculations. It needs to be clear so that the evaluation can be thoroughly carried out. Do make use of the industrial partners, as I said, working on the application, but also maybe ask them to step back, read the whole application, and would this have sold the idea to them? Would it be explained clearly what the technology idea is if you're coming into it afresh? So to that point, the best previous applications we've seen are those where it's clear that all partners have been involved in the preparation and it's not just the technology. So then finally, in terms of looking at past successful projects, please do visit the link here on the screen, which takes you to case studies from previous projects. This may help you to just get a flavour of some of the past projects that have been part of the programme. Thanks, Johnny.
Great, thanks so much for that, Andrew. And yeah, just to reiterate Andrew's point there about what's available on the website. If you go to the website and to previous phases, you can see a huge level of detail on all of the past programs, which are incredibly interesting, and I've certainly spent a lot of time going through and learning an awful lot from them. So we'd definitely encourage you to do that. So finally, in terms of next steps, please do get in touch with your ideas, start preparing your applications. We understand that the time is quite short for phase 3. Do consider around the possibility of phase 4 as well. But we do encourage you to get your applications in as soon as possible, particularly due to those potential funding constraints. But if in doubt, please do get in touch with the team, start that conversation, and we are here to help. And we do want to support you through the application process, because we know it can be a slightly daunting and difficult time to really understand what's needed and the type of effort and resource that is required. Key things to think about. Partnerships. Do you have the right partners, or do you need help finding one? We are here to try and support where we can in terms of helping partners, provide potential partners with the confidence that the IEEA is a robust and suitable program for them, and so are able to do that. And we can also use some of our networks if needed to try and put you in touch with potential partners. Think about the application process. Do you have the right resources to apply? As I mentioned, we are here to help. So please do have a look at what you need to be able to complete that. And then finally, importantly, funding. As I mentioned, before match funding is required, do you have that in place? Do you think you can secure it? Finally as well, if you are a demonstration site, please do get in touch. We're also keen to understand potential industrial partners that may be looking for technologies that might be suitable to them, and we'll be able to put you hopefully in touch with relevant potential partners there. And so that matchmaking does work both ways. We also have the Meeting Mojo platform, which should help to identify potential partners. Links to that are available through the website, so please do consider signing up to that, seeing how else is on there, and that might allow you to start a conversation with potential partners or other projects. And so with that, we will leave it there. Just to reiterate, please do visit the carbontrust.com/IEEA website, where you will find all of this information, be able to submit an idea and make your application. And we look forward to receiving those in the future. Thank you so much.